The day I told my wife I lost my job, she smirked and replied, "You lost me as well. I want divorce." I pressed for the reason and she said, "I married you for your money. No money, no love." So I accepted and she left to be with her lover. I'd always known Laura had a thing for the finer stuff. Designer bags, dinners that cost more than my car payment, but I never thought it'd come to this. That night, I sat her down on our leather couch, the one she'd insisted we buy because it screamed success, and I dropped the bomb. "I lost my job today," I said, keeping my voice steady, my eyes locked on hers. It was a lie, of course. My consultancy gig was already pulling in cash, more than the mid-level management grind I'd been stuck in for years. But she didn't know that. I needed to see what she'd do, who she really was when the chips were down. Her reaction hit me like a slap. She didn't cry or ask how we'd manage. She smirked. Just a quick twist of her lips, like she'd been waiting for an excuse. "Well," she said, leaning back, crossing her arms, "you lost me too. I want a divorce." I blinked, the words sinking in slow, like mud settling in a puddle. I'd suspected she'd been drifting. Late nights, vague excuses, that new perfume I didn't recognize. But hearing it out loud? That was a gut punch. "Why?" I asked, though I already knew. I wanted her to say it, to rip the mask off herself right there. She didn't hesitate. "I married you for your money, Daniel. No money, no love. Simple as that." Her voice was cold, clipped, like she was reading a grocery list. She stood, grabbed her phone, and started texting. "I'm going to Mark's. We're done." Mark. The name wasn't a surprise. I'd seen his flashy BMW parked outside our house once when she claimed it was a client dropping off papers. I'd let it slide, too tired or too naive to push. Now it made sense. "You're leaving?" "Just like that," I said, standing too, my hands clenched at my sides. She didn't even look up from her phone. "What's the point of staying? You can't give me what I need anymore." And with that, she walked to the bedroom, packed a bag, and headed for the door. I could have stopped her, could have told her the truth that I hadn't lost a damn thing. That my consultancy was already outpacing my old salary, that I'd been testing her, but I didn't. I stood there silent, watching her heels click across the hardwood floor I paid for. The door slammed behind her, and the house went quiet. Too quiet. I sank back onto the couch, staring at the spot where she'd been, her words echoing in my head. No money, no love. Part of me wanted to chase her, to yell that she'd failed the test, that I'd caught her out. But another part, the part that had been whispering doubts for months, felt something else. Relief. Like a weight I hadn't known I was carrying had finally slipped off my shoulders. I'd spent 5 years building a life with her, thinking she loved me, not my paycheck. Now I knew better. I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table and opened it. The screen glowed with emails from clients. Real ones, not the fake papers Mark dropped off. My consultancy wasn't just a side hustle anymore. It was my future. I'd started a year ago, tired of the corporate hamster wheel, and it had taken off faster than I dreamed. A tech startup in Boston had signed on last week a 6-figure deal. Laura didn't know any of it. She'd never asked about my late nights or the calls I took in the garage. She'd been too busy planning her next shopping spree. I leaned back, running a hand through my hair. The lie had been a gamble, sure, but it had paid off in a way I hadn't expected. I didn't have to wonder anymore. Laura wasn't my wife. She was a tenant who just stopped paying rent. And now she was gone. Off to Mark's, probably thinking she'd traded up. Let her. I didn't meet her tears or her excuses. I needed the truth, and I'd gotten it. Still, as I sat there, the silence pressed in. The house felt too big, too empty. I'd built it for us. For her. And now it was just me. I thought about calling my brother, Jake, to tell him what had happened. But I didn't. Not yet. This was mine to carry for now. I closed the laptop, stood, and walked to the kitchen. I poured a glass of whiskey, the good stuff Laura hated because it wasn't classy enough, and raised it to the empty room. "To freedom," I muttered and took a sip. The burn felt good, sharp, like a reset. I didn't know what came next. Divorce papers, probably, and whatever mess Laura would drag me into with Mark. But I knew one thing. I wasn't broken. Not even close. She walked out thinking she'd left me with nothing, but she was wrong. I had my business, my pride, and a hell of a lot more fight than she'd ever given me credit for. Let her run to Mark. Let her think she'd won. I'd show her what winning really looked like, and that was the moment I decided. This wasn't the end. It was the start. 3 months after Laura walked out, I was a different man. Not just because I ditched the old suburban house for a sleek apartment downtown or because my consultancy had me rubbing elbows with CEOs instead of middle managers. It was deeper than that. I'd stopped looking over my shoulder waiting for her to come back with some half-baked apology. I'd stopped caring. And damn, it felt good. The morning she left, I toasted to freedom with a glass of whiskey. Now I was living it. My business wasn't just surviving. It was exploding. That tech startup in Boston, they doubled their contract after I streamlined their operations. Word got around, and soon I had a waiting list. Retail chains, app developers, even a law firm with a corner office fancier than anything I'd ever dreamed of. I hired 2 assistants, rented a space with a view of the city skyline, and traded my beat-up sedan for a black Audi that purred like a promise. People started recognizing me at networking events, shaking my hand, calling me the guy who turns chaos into cash. I liked the sound of that. I'd moved on in other ways too. The house went on the market the week after Laura left. Too many echoes of her in those rooms, her voice nagging about curtains or countertops. I didn't need it anymore. My new place was all glass and steel. Minimalist. Mine. I'd started hitting the gym again, something I'd let slide during the marriage, and the guy staring back in the mirror looked sharper, stronger. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, just coffee or drinks with women I met through work. They were nice, smart, but I kept my guard up. Laura had taught me that lesson the hard way. Still, she wasn't gone completely, not yet. Divorce papers were in the works. My lawyer, a pit bull named Karen, was handling it, but Laura hadn't signed. She texted once a week after she bolted something vague about needing space to think. I didn't reply. Let her think whatever she wanted with Mark. I had better things to do. That afternoon, I was leaving a meeting with a new client, a boutique hotel chain, when I saw it. My Audi parked outside a cafe I'd stopped at for a quick espresso. Nothing unusual, except for who was standing next to it. Laura. She was across the street, frozen mid-step, staring at the car like it was a ghost. I ducked into the cafe doorway before she spotted me, watching her through the glass. She looked different, hair messier, no designer bag slung over her shoulder. She squinted at the license plate, then pulled out her phone, typing fast. I smirked. She'd figured it out. I'd kept my success quiet at first, not wanting her to come sniffing around. But secrets don't stay secret in a city this size. Friends we'd shared, hers mostly, had started asking questions. "Heard you're killing it, Dan," once said at a bar a month back. "What's the story?" I'd shrugged, played it cool, but the rumors spread. Laura must have heard them too. And now here she was, piecing it together. The Audi was proof. She'd always hated my old car, called it embarrassing. This one, she'd have drooled over it. I slipped out the cafe side exit and drove off before she could catch me. No point in a confrontation, not yet. But it got me thinking, what was her life like now? Mark, with his BMW and his big talk, had swept her off her feet, but I'd done some digging. A quick call to a mutual friend, Pete, had filled in the blanks. Mark's entrepreneur gig was a house of cards, over-leveraged, late on payments, temper flaring when the cash ran dry. Pete said Laura had been at his place last week complaining about Mark's moods. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd picked her prize. Back at my apartment that night, I poured a glass of whiskey, same bottle from the night she left, and sat by the window looking out at the city lights. I'd won, hadn't I? The test had worked. I'd flushed out her true colors, built something better without her. So why did I still feel that itch, that nag in my chest? Maybe because it wasn't over. She'd seen the car. She knew I wasn't the broke loser she'd left behind. And Laura didn't let go of anything she thought she could still claim. I took a sip, the burn steadying me. My phone buzzed, an email from Karen. "Laura's stalling on the papers," it read. "Says she wants to talk." I set the phone down hard. Talk? After no money? No love? She had some nerve. I pictured her with Mark, counting his dwindling stack of bills, then hearing about my new life, my car, my clients, my freedom. She'd be stewing now, regretting it. Good. Let her stew. I stood, pacing the room. The test had been my idea, sure, but I hadn't planned what came next. If she came back begging, what would I say? I told myself I was done, that she'd never get another shot. But part of me, the part that still remembered her laugh, her touch, wondered if I'd listen. I shook it off. That was the old Daniel talking, the one who'd let her walk all over him. The new Daniel? He didn't bend. I raised my glass again, this time to the man I'd become. To winning, I said aloud. But as I drank, I couldn't shake the feeling that Laura wasn't done playing either. And whatever move she made next, I'd be ready. I should have known Laura wouldn't let it go that easy. 3 months of silence after she'd stormed out. And now here she was standing at my apartment door on a rainy afternoon, looking like a drowned cat who'd just remembered where the food was. I'd been in the middle of a call with a client, a chain of gyms wanting my help, when the buzzer went off. I ignored it at first, figuring it was a delivery guy with the wrong address. Then it buzzed again, insistent, and I checked the camera. Her face stared back, puffy-eyed, mascara streaked. My stomach twisted, but not with pity. More like dread. I ended the call and let her in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what she'd say. She stepped inside, dripping water on my hardwood floor, and I didn't offer her a towel. She glanced around, taking in the sleek furniture, the view of the city through the glass walls, and her jaw tightened. "Nice place," she said, her voice thin, like she was trying to sound casual. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "What do you want, Laura?" She didn't answer right away. She set her bag down, some cheap knockoff instead of the Gucci she used to flaunt, and ran a hand through her wet hair. "I made a mistake," she said finally, her eyes meeting mine. "I shouldn't have left. I want to come back." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I stayed quiet, letting her squirm. She took a step closer. "I heard about your business. Everyone's talking about you, Daniel. I didn't know. How could I? You didn't tell me." There it was. The blame. I'd seen it coming the second she walked in. "So this is my fault?" I said, keeping my tone flat. "You leaving because I lost my job, that's on me?" She flinched, but only for a second. Then the tears started right on cue. "You tricked me," she said, her voice breaking. "You lied about the job. If I'd known about the consultancy, I wouldn't have gone. I thought you were broke, Daniel. You made me think that." I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to shout. "I didn't make you do anything," I said. "You walked out. You said it yourself. No money. No love. That was all you." She shook her head, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. I pulled back. "I was upset," she said, confused. "Mark was there. And I messed up. But I love you. I always did. Let me fix this." Her words hit me like a cheap shot. Love? She didn't even know the meaning. I thought about the nights I'd spent wondering if she'd ever cared. The mornings I'd woken up to her texting someone else, Mark, probably, while I made her coffee. I'd been blind then, but not anymore. "You don't love me," I said, stepping away. "You love what I can give you. And when you thought that was gone, you ran to the next guy with a fat wallet. How's that working out, by the way? Mark still footing the bill?" Her face went red, and the tears stopped fast. "He's a jerk," she snapped. "Broke too. I left him last week, but that's not why I'm here. I mean it, Daniel. We can start over. You don't have to be alone." Alone. The words stung more than I'd expected, but not enough to sway me. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the desperation, the calculation behind her eyes. She wasn't here for me. She was here for the Audi, the clients, the life she'd thrown away. "No," I said, my voice hard. "We're done. I'd rather be single than with someone who only loves my wallet." She froze, her mouth opening like she had a comeback, then shutting again. I walked to the door and held it open. "Sign the papers, Laura. Karen's waiting." For a second, I thought she'd beg more, but she didn't. She grabbed her bag, shot me a glare that could have cut glass, and stormed out. The door clicked shut, and I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding. I stood there, staring at the spot where she'd been. My chest ached not for her, but for the years I'd wasted believing her lies. The test had been my idea, yeah, but I hadn't expected this. Her coming back, blaming me, acting like I owed her a second chance. I grabbed my phone and texted Karen. She was here. Pushed the divorce through fast. Then I sank onto the couch, replaying her words. "You tricked me." Maybe I had, but she'd failed the test all on her own. Later, I poured a whiskey and sat by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. I'd won, hadn't I? My business was booming. My life was mine again. So why did I feel like something was still hanging over me? Laura was gone, but she left a mark, a reminder of how easy it had been for her to turn on me. I took a sip, the burn grounding me. She begged, and I'd said no. That was power. That was freedom. But as I set the glass down, my phone buzzed. A text from Pete. "Heads up. Laura's pissed. Talking trash about you to anyone who'll listen." I smirked, then frowned. Trash talk? Let her try. I built this life from nothing, and no one, not her, not Mark, was taking it away. She wanted a fight? She'd get one. I told Laura to sign the papers and get out, but I should have known she wouldn't go quietly. A week after she'd stormed out of my apartment, the first it came, I was in my office prepping a pitch for a new client, a chain of coffee shops, when my assistant, Jen, poked her head in. "You see this yet?" she said, holding up her phone. It was a post on X, some local gossip account with a few thousand followers. "Daniel Carter's consultancy? Total scam. Overcharges and underdelivers. Check the receipts. Attached for screenshots, emails I'd supposedly sent, promising miracles for cash, then bailing. Fake as hell, but convincing enough to make me sweat." I knew who was behind it before Jen said another word. Laura. She'd threatened to talk trash, and now she'd gone nuclear. I grabbed my phone and called Karen. She's trying to tank me, I said, forwarding the post. Can we sue her for this? Karen's voice was calm, like always. Defamation's tricky, but we'll dig. She's stalling the divorce too, probably thinks this will leverage you. Sit tight. Sit tight. My inbox was already lighting up, clients asking questions, one canceling a meeting. I slammed the phone down, pacing the room. This wasn't just personal anymore. She'd hit my business, my lifeblood. I spent the next few days firefighting. I met with my biggest clients, Boston Tech, the hotel chain, showing them my real records, proving the emails were garbage. Most stuck with me, but the damage was there. My name was getting dragged online, whispers spreading. I couldn't let it stand. I called Pete, who tipped me off about Laura's ranting. What's she saying? I asked. He hesitated. She's telling people you lied to her, screwed her over in the marriage, says the consultancy was a secret to cheat her out of money. She's got some barflies buying it. I gritted my teeth. Cheat her? She'd been the one cheating with Mark with her lies. That's when Karen called back. That's something, she said. Hacked into an old joint account you two had, email backups. Found messages between her and Mark. Dates back a year, Daniel. She was with him before your test. I froze, the phone heavy in my hand. A year before I'd even thought to lie about the job, pictures flashed through my head. Her late nights, her work trips, that damn BMW outside our house. I'd been a fool, but not the way she'd claimed. Send me everything, I said. I'm ending this. The evidence was gold. Emails of Laura giggling about Mark's big plans, texts about meeting up while I was at work. One even mentioned me. Daniel's clueless pays for everything. It wasn't just proof she'd lied. It was a weapon. I didn't feel guilt anymore about the test. She'd been playing me long before I'd played her. I forwarded it all to Karen with one note. Use this. Then I got to work. Laura wanted a war? I'd fight back harder. The next blow came fast. A local journalist, some guy named Tim who'd been sniffing around startups, published a piece based on Laura's fakes. Consultancy con? Insider claims fraud. My phone exploded. Clients, friends, even my gym buddy asking if it was true. I called Tim. Kept my cool. You've got bad info, I said. Meet me tomorrow. I'll show you the real story. He agreed, skeptical but curious. I wasn't just defending myself now. I was taking her down. That night, I sat in my apartment, the city lights mocking me through the glass. My business was teetering. 2 more clients had pulled back, waiting to see how this shook out. I poured a whiskey, but didn't drink it. I didn't need the burn tonight. I needed focus. Laura thought she could bury me with lies, but she'd underestimated me. I'd built this from scratch. Every deal, every late night, and no one was tearing it apart. Not her, not Mark, not some hack reporter. Karen texted, divorce hearings next week. She's dodging, but we'll force it. Evidence is locked. Good. I pulled up the X post again, the fake emails staring back. Then I opened Laura's old messages, reading them cold. He's boring, Mark. You're the future. I laughed. Bitter. Boring? I'd been loyal, steady, while she'd chased a mirage. Mark was broke now, Pete said, his future crumbling. She'd picked wrong, and instead of owning it, she'd come for me. I met Tim the next day at a diner, handing him a folder, her emails, my contracts, bank statements showing every legit dime I'd earned. She's lying, I said. Check the dates. She was cheating before I tested her. This is revenge. He flipped through it, eyebrows climbing. This changes things, he muttered. Give me a day. I nodded, but I wasn't waiting on him. Laura's next move was coming. I could feel it. She'd lost Mark, lost me, and now she was losing her grip. Desperate people get sloppy. That night, my phone buzzed. Pete again. She's hitting up a gala tomorrow. Business thing. Talking you down to anyone who'll listen. The gala. I'd been invited. Networking. Big names. I planned to skip it, but not now. If she wanted to play this out in public, I'd be there. I set the whiskey down untouched and grabbed my suit jacket. She'd started this fight, but I'd finish it. And when I did, she'd wish she'd signed those papers and walked away. The gala was a sea of suits and champagne. A ballroom packed with the city's business crowd. Exactly the kind of place Laura would crash to take me down. I'd almost skipped it, but after Pete's text, I knew I had to show. She'd been clawing at my reputation all week. Fake emails that hid peace from Tim, and I wasn't letting her have the last word. I walked in, jacket sharp, head high, the folder of evidence tucked under my arm like a loaded gun. If she wanted to fight, she'd get one she'd never forget. The room buzzed with chatter, but I felt eyes on me. Word had spread. Some saw me as the hotshot consultant, others as the guy from the scam rumors. I grabbed a water from the bar, scanning for her. Pete was right. She was here. I spotted her across the floor, working a cluster of suits, her laugh loud, forced. She hadn't seen me yet. I stayed back, letting her dig her hole. Tim, the journalist, slipped in beside me, notepad out. "You sure about this?" he asked. I handed him the folder. "Read it, then watch." He flipped through Laura's emails, her affair with Mark, her mocking me, while I kept my focus on her. She was mid-story, gesturing wild when her eyes locked on mine. Her smile faltered just for a second, but she recovered fast, turning back to her audience. I heard my name drop from her lips sharp like a curse. "He lied to me, ruined me," she was saying, loud enough to draw heads. "His whole business is a fraud." That was my cue. I stepped forward, voice steady. "Funny you mention lies, Laura." The room hushed, all eyes swinging to me. She froze, clutching her glass. I didn't stop. "You've been spreading fakes about my work, emails I never sent. Want to tell them why?" She opened her mouth, but I cut her off, nodding to Tim. "Show them." He held up the folder, reading aloud her words, not mine. "Daniel's clueless, pays for everything. Marks the future." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I kept going. "You were with him a year before I tested you." "I lied about the job." "Sure, but you'd already checked out." Her face went white, then red. "That's not true," she snapped, but her voice shook. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a bank statement, projected it on a screen behind me, courtesy of Jen, who'd rigged it earlier. "Here's my real work," I said. "Every client, every dollar. No scams, just results." The crowd murmured, heads nodding. Laura lunged forward, spilling her drink. "You set me up. You ruined us." I didn't flinch. "You ruined yourself," I said. "Sign the papers and go." She stood there, trembling, then bolted for the exit, shoving past people. The room erupted, some clapping, others whispering. Tim scribbled fast, grinning. "This is gold," he said. "Peace drops tomorrow." Her story's toast. I nodded, but I didn't feel like celebrating. I'd won, but it tasted bitter. She'd forced this, dragged me through her mess, and I'd had to fight dirty to end it. I left the gala, the noise fading behind me, and drove home in silence. The next morning, Tim's article hit Consultant Clear's name, X exposed. My phone lit up, clients calling back, new ones reaching out. The coffee shop chain signed on by noon, and Boston Tech upped their deal. My business wasn't just safe, it was thriving. Karen texted too. "Divorce is final." She signed last night. I sat back in my office chair, staring at the city skyline. It was over. Really over. No more Laura. No more lies. Just me and what I built. A week later, I was at a coffee shop. Same one where Laura had seen my Audi when I met Sarah. She bumped into me, spilling her latte, and laughed it off. No drama. We talked easy. Real. She ran a non-profit, didn't care about my car or my clients, just asked about my day. I asked her out, tentative, and she said yes. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something clean, something honest. After Laura, that was enough. That night, I stood in my office looking out at the lights. I'd started this with a test, one lie to catchers, and it had spiraled into a war I hadn't wanted. But I'd come out stronger. The consultancy was mine, built from late nights and hard calls, not her or anyone else. I thought about calling Jake, my brother, to finally tell him everything, but I didn't. He'd hear it soon enough. For now, I just stood there, letting the quiet settle. I'd lost a wife, sure, but I'd found myself. Laura had walked out thinking I'd crumble, that I'd be nothing without her. She'd been wrong. I didn't need her smirk, her greed, her games. I had my work, my pride, and a shot at something real with Sarah. I raised an imaginary glass, no whiskey this time, just air, and toasted the man I'd become. To trust, I said aloud, not in her, not in anyone else, but in me. And that was the end of it, or maybe the start. Either way, I was free. And that's how I learned trust isn't given, it's earned. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. What do you think? Did Laura get what she deserved, or should I have played it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every one. If you like this story, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next.